Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video here on the channel. If you guys don't know me, my name's Justin. I have a reptile room, and I did a reptile room tour there a couple days ago. Links to that will be down in the description, and if you guys are into video games, my video game channel will be in the description. Also, I forgot to mention, this is like my 18th take recording this video. All the information that I have is either from me or from sources from the internet. Now, every care sheet that I'm reading from will be linked in the description below for all the animals we discuss. Pictures will be popping up on the screen, and all this is opinion-based. This is my opinion to the best reptiles you can get if you're a beginner or if you're getting a reptile for your kid. Honestly, if you have different opinions, that's different opinions, but this is what I think would be the best starter animals, and I've owned all of them. I own all of them. So, yeah, it's all my opinion. So, without further ado, let's get into number one. Alright, coming in at number one, the reptile that I chose, in my opinion, will be the easiest and the best for a beginner, is a crested gecko. They live for 15 to 20 years, so it's not a short-term commitment unless you sell it, and they get 4 to 4.5 inches long, which honestly is not that big for an animal. It's pretty short. They can be kept in about a 10 to 20 gallon tank. You would want to go to the higher side of 20 gallon. I personally keep them in an 18 by 18 by 18 Exoterra tank. That's my opinion. That's what I keep them in, and I wouldn't keep them in anything smaller. But yeah, crested geckos, the reason I chose them to be number one on the list as the best starter reptile ever is you don't need bugs, you don't need insects. You mix common brands in Canada are Pangea, Rapashi, and Zoomed. Now, it's a paste that you mix with water, stir it up, and it's on its instructions, and you just feed it to them, and that's really good for their supplement. And their heat temperature is basically ambient room temperature. So if you don't have a really hot house and you don't have a really cold house, crested geckos can sit on your friggin' nightstand and be totally fine. Some people prefer to use UV lighting, some people don't. Some people don't think it's necessary. That's really preference. I don't know. I go either way sometimes. If I have UV on them, it stays on them. If I don't, I don't. But yeah, so crested geckos, one downfall to crested geckos is they can lose their tail, and unlike other species, when they lose their tail, it does not grow back. So once they lose their tail, you have no-tail crested gecko, which honestly doesn't harm them at all. They don't even care that it's gone. It's a normal thing with crested geckos, to be fully honest with you, so don't be surprised if you see plenty without tails. Alright, the next animal I chose, coming at number two to be one of the more easy ones, is a gargoyle gecko. Now, a gargoyle gecko is pretty much the exact same care of a crested gecko. A 20-gallon tank, they live to be 15 or 20. Basically, they need a little more heat, so they need about 78 to 82 degrees during the day, and then it can drop to low 70s at night. So they need a little bit of heat, but the same concept goes. They eat the powdered mix. They don't really need bugs. 20-gallon tank, like basically same size. Yeah, that's that sums up gargoyle geckos. Now we're looking at disadvantages as well here. One disadvantage would be cost. Now, gargoyle geckos are a lot more difficult to come upon within the industry. You can still get them, don't get me wrong, they're everywhere. They just have a higher price tag. Crested gecko you can get at your local PetSmart. It doesn't really matter. You can get them anywhere. Gargoyle geckos, you're going to be looking into more specialized, maybe breeders, because not many places will carry gargoyles, and if they do, they have a pretty high price tag. So that's the downside of gargoyle geckos, but amazing starting animals. They got a really cool flair to them, as you can see on the screen. The next animal we're going to be taking a look at is a leopard gecko. Now, this, hands down, is the most common beginner reptile that you will see on any list you look up. It is guaranteed to be number one. Leopard geckos, there's so much you can say. There's so much you can see with leopard geckos. They come in so many different colors, different morphs, and you can get one for $20 or you can get one for $3,000. They live to be about 27 and a half years old, so they can get to be grandpas if you keep them well enough. And they get 3 to 4 inches to 7 to 8. It just depends on the morph. You really can't justify any type of leopard gecko because there's so many out there. one of the downsides to leopard geckos, in my opinion, is they need heat. They need heat on their belly, and it's hard to get a reliable source for that. I've had many product fail and actually like almost light stuff on fire on me. So doing a heat mat with a thermostat is probably the #1 best decision, but that is more than the tank. Leopard geckos can be kept in a 10-gallon tank. If you can go 20, go 20, because obviously you like bigger houses. You don't need bigger houses, but you like bigger houses. They need a moist and a dry hide, and they need to be fed insects. They don't need any paste. They don't need anything like that. They need to be fed insects, so mealworms. Some people feed superworms, crickets, insects. So yeah, I would say the downside to leopard geckos is the heat, because you're looking at a good amount just in getting their setup, and then you have heat. You need to feed them insects. It's just, leopard geckos are, don't get me wrong, an amazing beginning animal, but if you want something that's bare minimum basic, the crested and gargoyles are probably your best choice. Alright, now we're getting the most common reptile that you'll see in any household, a bearded dragon. I don't know if I need to say too much about a bearded dragon. Between 6 to 10 years, 2 feet in length. You need at least a 40-gallon tank. They need a UV light and a heat light. 12-hour on, 12-hour off. Eats a crap ton of insects and vegetables. That's basically it. It says on this care sheet a 75-gallon is optimal for the best. I've heard people doing 40, 50. It's personal preference at that point. Yeah, I'm not going to speak too much about bearded dragons because they're everywhere, and it just made the list because they're pretty common for being beginner reptiles. So yeah, let's move on to number 5. All right, I'm different, okay? The next animal that I put on my list for best beginner reptiles is a Pac-Man frog. A Pac-Man frog is on the screen, obviously. They are ugly, and they are freaking cool, man. Pac-Man frogs can get 4 to 7 inches depending on gender. They can live for about 15 years, and they're freaking awesome. They eat insects. You can keep them in a 20-gallon tank, 10 to 20 gallon. They don't need any external heat. You just basically use a coconut fiber or a soil. Coconut fiber is the best one. I wouldn't say soil, because some soils can have contaminants in it and goes into the skin. And moisture. They like moisture. They're water bowls. They are a frog. But the reason I put it at great beginning reptiles, now this isn't one that you want to hold, okay? If you have a kid who likes their goldfish, but they want something more interesting in their goldfish that goes up and eats their food, Pac-Man frogs, as they grow up, can eat small rats, pinky rats. They're insane. Now, that being said, you don't want to feed Pac-Man frogs rats every single day. They will get a calcium overload, and it's just not good for them. But a rat a month is what I do, and they're so cool to see them eat, especially when you put bugs in. Now, Pac-Man frogs aren't hunting animals. They will hunker down, and they will patiently wait for something to walk in front of them. So if you're brave enough to feed with pinchers, you can put an insect in front of a Pac-Man frog and watch it eat it. It is the coolest thing ever, and it's basically a step up from a goldfish, and it's pretty uncommon as a beginning reptile. But they're freaking awesome. It's what I would recommend. I find them really cool, and they're really easy to care for. So yeah. Alrighty, ladies and gents, thank you for watching this video. If you guys are new, hit the subscribe button. If this was helpful, hit the like button. If you guys have video suggestions that you want me to do sitting here, aside of doing stuff in the reptile room, leave comments what you want me to do. I have a few ideas that I do want to do. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to the future of this channel. You guys have been killing it, and I am super amazed. If you guys want to follow my Twitter, it is down below. Again, all the links for the magazine website, I used reptilemagazines.com. They're all down below. Thank you to them. And go subscribe to my gaming channel that actually has regular content on it as well. But guys, if you guys... Yeah, I'm going into my intro. I've been doing YouTube for way too long.